Last night, the Montgomery County Board met for its first full board meeting with 3 new members, and while reassessments for wooded acreage have been put on ice by the county board, Supervisor of Assessments Kendra Niehaus was a central topic last night. Former board member Donna Yeske called for the board to give Niehaus 30 days' notice and terminate her employment with the county. Local realtor Brandy Lentz, meanwhile, is focusing on trying to shift the assessor post to an elected position.
I am just actually doing an online petition right now to ask the county board to, at their January meeting, to actually make this an elected position. If they make this an elected position, it's an immediate. If we have to actually go and petition this to be put on the ballot, it won't be able to be put on the ballot until the November 2026, which then we won't be able to elect a new assessor until I believe it would be the next general election, which would be 2028. The county board can listen to the people and actually make this immediate at their January meeting. So that is what I'm actually doing, an online petition right now to petition to ask the county board to do that. And then I'm actually also petitioning for wet signatures if they will not do that at their January meeting, so that we can go ahead and go through the Board of Elections and actually put that on the next general election ballot.
Chairman Doug Donaldson weighed in on the calls to either let Niehaus go or making that post, the assessor's office, an elected position.
As far as anything regarding termination, that's going to be a personnel decision. It's not something that we take lightly. It's something that it's obvious that the public is concerned about it. But making decisions like that, that's not something that we're going to do just as a knee-jerk reaction. As far as making an elected position, I'm kind of in the middle of the road with that one. I can see both sides. I can see where it would make that person more responsible to the public. I can also see a potential downside of that may be that, right now we've got some folks that are qualified that want to do it. But what happens in 4 or 5, 8 years, whenever we don't have anyone that wants to run, and someone runs that potentially doesn't have the best interests of the citizens in mind, and it's the only person that runs, well, then what are we going to do? Then we have an elected person that's in office, and it only takes one person to elect a person that runs unopposed to put him in the office. So I kind of see both sides. It's just something, if the voters decide it's something they want to put on the ballot in April and it passes, well, then that's what we're going to have to go with.
And Donaldson talked more about the formation of an ad hoc committee, which will have direct public involvement with non-board members.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We want to get as much input as we can do. The county board, I've got about 4 members that are going to be from the board on there. And as far as the makeup of the rest of the committee, I've talked to a few people in the community that did volunteer to serve. There's some legal stuff we got to work out in terms of how much they can contribute to that committee, but I'm working on that. But the question came up tonight was, although I didn't release any names yet, are we really going to have a committee? And the answer to that is 100% yes. This ad hoc committee is definitely a go. I'm kind of waiting to get it started until after the holidays. We have our next full board meeting is January the 14th. I hope by that time to be able to name who the members are going to be. And I look for the first meeting for that committee to be sometime towards the end of January.
The Montgomery County wooded acreage tax adjustments have been shelved, but fallout continues to be seen at county board meetings. On Tuesday, the county board requested that Supervisor of Assessments Kendra Niehaus make an extension on the homestead exemption for landlords for Tim Loveless. He had all of his lease documents destroyed at an office fire in September of last year. Loveless reported Niehaus wouldn't extend the paperwork deadline, and Loveless said that cost him an extra $20,000 that he has to pass on to tenants. There was a 12-1 vote in favor of the request, but the county board noted they can't order Niehaus to make a change. Brandy Lentz, nonetheless, was pleased with the vote.
Yes, I was actually very pleased with that. Originally, when I saw that come across, I was telling myself, Brandy, stay in your own lane. This has nothing to do with what you're doing. But when I actually FOIA'd the audio recordings from last Thursday's meeting and I listened to how he was treated, and they had no empathy for the fact that he had a building that was burnt down and he couldn't provide them with that documentation, I knew that I had to take a stand on that. And he wasn't here this evening. I do plan on calling him when I leave here this evening. I knew that that's something, especially since the county board allowed the assessor to record her education requirements on public record 17 months late. I just feel that they should allow him to the same leniency. There's been a lot of inconsistencies as far as the Montgomery County assessor. Last year was her full first year, and she started requiring all landowners, if they had rental properties, they had to record their lease. She gave them a laundry list of things that they had to do to get the owner-occupied exemptions. And so one of the things that was brought up, and I actually just had sent emails out to the surrounding counties around Montgomery County, and that's what I spoke on tonight, was I received emails back from Christian County and Sangamon County that they're not consistent. And that is something that the state law, that they do allow each assessor to decide how they want to interpret and how they want to, what requirements they want to make for their county. Just because it's the law doesn't mean we have to make things difficult. I don't see why we have to do that for our taxpayers here, just to give them the exemption. Why we need to make things difficult? Why not work with people? And that's why I feel that if this is an elected position, that person is not going to make things difficult. They're going to work with their taxpayers within the law, of course.
Now, we have reached out to Niehaus for her response to the county board request, as well as calls for her to be terminated by former board member Donna Yeske and the push to make her position an elected one. So far, no comment from Niehaus. Meanwhile, Brandy Lentz has launched 2 petition efforts in the push to make the assessor post an elected one. There's an online-only petition which calls for the county board to pass an ordinance at their January meeting to make the county assessor's office an elected position. And the second petition would put it in the hands of the voters outright. 2% of registered voters in Montgomery County would have to tender their signatures on a valid petition for the issue to appear on the ballot for the next general election in November 2026. Final revisit to Tuesday's Montgomery County Board meeting and public comments critical of Assessor Kendra Niehaus and her handling of the wooded acreage tax issue. Jesse Buller addressed the county board representing farmers across the county. Like former county board member Donna Yeske, he called for Niehaus's removal and for the county to make the assessor an elected post. He said the assessor's office has the wrong mindset.
So when I first brought it up to one of my board members, one of the people that just got nominated to a committee called me and said, you know what, the assessor's going to look past your property, just leave it alone. You just need to leave this alone. And I'm like, I'm not leaving it alone. So here I am. And then, of course, my parcels got very heavily looked at until they set it where it's at. And I have nothing that's not grandfathered. But it's still, if I go to sell or buy something, that's where I'm at. And that's where the retaliation came when I had the phone call and told me to mind my own business. So I sat down with the state's attorney and did a 50-minute interview with him. And the one thing he kept reiterating that he tells this board, he tells them what's legal and what's not, and expressly lets them know, if you listen to the interview, that he is not telling them what's ethical and moral to do. There's the law, and there's a huge, wide gray area, and my opinion, and it seemed like our state's attorney opinion, an elected official is supposed to lean towards the elected people, not towards the government, not towards making more bureaucracy, not making it harder, but making sure we stay within the rules and lean as far as we can with those laws to the people, which we've noticed all the other assessors have done around our county. Every other county has done this.